So a prospective buyer comes to you that is a pilot. And we're going to have, obviously, we've got pilots and we got non-pilots that are coming to you looking for planes. Let's talk about the one who's a pilot and how the advising and consulting goes with that. They say they want to buy a Baron because the guy down the street has a Baron. Mm-hmm. And the example of I've got, even if I've only got 2 or 3 passengers, but I'm flying 2,000 miles and over the mountains or whatever the case. Talk through that with respect to, you have a buyer who's a pilot and wants to fly the airplane, as opposed to the different types. It may be that you advise that, an Excel would be the best plane, that kind of thing. But now that's a whole different story. Type ratings and recurrence and all that stuff.
And insurance.
And insurance, absolutely insurance. So just
that's a heavy part of it.
Walk through that scenario from somebody who's got the dream of, I'm a pilot, I want to fly my own business aircraft, and the type of aircraft and the things that they have to think about.
Yeah. Phil, one of the first things I'd like to say is, again, we keep talking about the industry and the changes in the industry, and one of the things that we've seen is 20, 30 years ago, there was a pretty well-beaten path. You buy a 172, then you upgrade to a 182, and maybe you get to fly someone's 206, and then you get into a 310 and get your twin rating. Then from there you go to a pressurized twin like a Navajo or a 421, and then from there you jump to a King Air. Today, we are seeing owner pilots that are going basically from training airplanes straight into turbine aircraft.
Yeah, they'll go to a TBM to a CJ.
So the path is very different, and we've had to drop some old school thinking, because not long ago, you would tell that guy, oh, you're nuts, it doesn't work that way. You have to take this path that we've all taken. And today, we have clients with a few hundred hours that are buying King Airs. They know they're going to have to fly with a pilot for a couple of years. They know their insurance to do that is going to be very expensive. We're talking like $50,000 a year. But it's not the money, it's the mission, and it's the most expedient way to get there. So that guy's going to be a King Air pilot faster than someone that takes the old path, and that's what matters to him.
So Chip, we've talked a little bit about moving from a piston to a turboprop, but what about the client that wants to go from a turboprop to a jet? What does that look like?
Yeah, good question, Andy, and that has changed also. Insurance has become a bigger challenge than it has been in the past. There's less competition in the insurance market. So the pilot that's transitioning from a turboprop to a jet, depending on his time and experience, is probably going to have to fly with a mentor pilot for 25 to 75 hours, depending on his experience. And he's probably looking at some higher rates for that first year or two of operating that jet. But obviously, the benefits of a jet over a turboprop, we talked a lot about the advantages of a turboprop, but when you get into the jet world, you're flying higher, flying safer, flying quieter, flying further. It opens up a myriad of possibilities. So once that pilot makes that transition from a turboprop to a jet, then the rest of his transitions are easy. Once you've got the jet experience, then the insurance company's not going to have a problem with you moving from this airplane to that airplane. You may still have a little bit of mentor time, but once you're a jet pilot, then the training and the type ratings that follow are all much easier. The turboprop to the jet's the big step.
Well, what about crew concerns? Maybe a single pilot versus a dual pilot aircraft. Do your clients, do they consider that, or do you have to coach them up on that a little bit, or do they come to the table ready to make that leap?
That's a cool question. Because it's one of those funny things in our industry where there's two camps and those camps are entrenched. There are guys that believe only in single pilot operations. They only want a single pilot. Obviously all turboprops, or most turboprops, are single pilot. But a lot of jets are single pilot, and they're only interested in single pilot jets. And then there's other guys that want two pilots up front. They don't care if it's a 182 or a King Air or a jet. They feel like there's safety in having two pilots up front. So it's a fascinating subject to talk to two different people who have similar backgrounds and similar training and similar concerns about safety, and just totally disagree about captain versus crew.
But you don't see your client base being in one camp or the other. You cater to all. If you want a crew, or if you want to be the owner operator and fly it yourself, you're good with either way. I mean, you're seeing
Absolutely.
Both of those, and your clients are in both camps on that. Okay.
And it's largely determined by the size of the aircraft. The largest single pilot jet is the Pilatus PC-24. And that's a pretty big airplane. It's pretty impressive that Pilatus has been able to make that a single pilot airplane.
That's a neat airplane.
But it's also an $11.5 million airplane. That's not in everyone's reach. So outside of aircraft like that, you're probably going to be limited to a fairly small airplane if you're flying a single pilot. The Cessna 525 series is the most common. Once you get into bigger, more capable airplanes, then you're probably going to be in crew, your Learjets, your Hawkers, the larger Citations. And it also depends, is this an owner pilot that's flying personal and business, or is this a company that's going to use pro pilots that fly the aircraft? So single pilot jets are very often owner flown. Most crewed jets, or most bigger jets, are flown by professional pilots and not owner pilots.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to consider, not just the aircraft, but the crew, the insurance, and a lot of things. Yeah. There's an aggregate that has to be considered at some point.
That's right.
And I think that's probably where you would excel in getting your clients in position to make those decisions and get educated and be ready to make the decision that fits them best.
That's right. There's a lot of things, especially if you're new to aviation, that you're just unaware of. The cost of insurance is one, but hangar space here, especially here in the Southeast, is very difficult to find. So you've got to crew this airplane, you've got to insure this airplane, you've got to house this airplane, you've got to maintain this airplane. There's a lot of things that go into it, other than just buying the airplane.